if you think we're on the run.
We present the Dad's Army radio show. 3 classic episodes of the BBC television series by Jimmy Perry and David Croft. Adapted and performed by David Benson
And Jack Lane.
Dad's Army radio show was really born from an idea that came from an earlier show that I did many years ago, where in that show where I was talking about my childhood and the things I used to love watching on television, like Morecambe and Wise, the Marx Brothers, anything to do with old comedy. I also used to watch Dad's Army. So in that show, I used to run a very quick medley of the voices. And often people would come up to me and say, why don't you do a whole show about Dad's Army? And it was only years later, probably about 2017, when I suddenly had the idea of doing Dad's Army as a radio show on stage. And then once I'd had the idea and obtained permission, I said, who else could I do this show with? Because I didn't want to do it by myself. It'd be much more fun to do it with someone who could ask. And of course, there was only one person. That was Mr. Lane.
And thank goodness you did.
I mean, they're both phenomenal actors.
Phenomenal
aren't they?
actors.
I mean, David I've known for 22, 23 years now. And his performances as Kenneth Williams and Frankie Howard are amazing. And when I heard
Jack
he was doing
did
this,
Norman Wisdom.
Yes,
So
that's how they met, isn't
absolutely,
it?
yeah.
And when I heard he was doing this, I was instantly interested because I knew he'd do a brilliant job. And then getting to meet you and talking about this was just a brilliant synergy. The BBC did all but 13 of the TV shows as radio productions. And it's always been a great shame that those 13 shows were never adapted for radio. And obviously, it is what Big Finish does.
And also, the thing is, some people like listening to the radio and some people like listening when they're driving and stuff. And now you can listen to shows, Dad's Army shows, you would never have been able to listen to before. And I think that's the relevant part.
Yes.
And we do get asked almost all the time, are you making these available for audio? Are you going to put these out? So it's a question that's come up a lot. And hopefully this is going to answer it, and this will please a lot of people from all over the world as well. We've had people from New Zealand, Australia. I can't get there, I want to see the show. So this is a lovely way to do it. And to be able to offer that as a gift to these, the people and the fans that want to see it all over the world.
It has been a very long time since we've been actually in the same room with actors recording because of COVID. So we've been recording from home. Obviously, the studio is far more controlled than where we are here, but we've done it in a different way slightly. We've done a dry record where we took out all the special effects and all the music and just had the actors on stage, so that if there's any technical problems later on, we can drop stuff in. But the exciting thing about this is it is being performed in front of a live studio audience.
Absolutely.
And we're going to have the audience reaction.
Exactly how it was.
Yes.
Because in fact, they didn't do a dry record. In Dad's day, they did a rehearsal, technical rehearsal, camera run, and then you got the people. And that's what we're getting, and that's what's so exciting.
Yes.
I don't know how the audiences are going to feel listening to this. They'll be listening to an audience as well as to us who are reacting to visual things that we're doing. But that's the same with all radio, particularly radio comedy. If you listen to an old Round the Horn, for instance, and you'll hear this sort of, oh yeah, so outrageous business of Kenneth Williams, all going on in the background, off script, that he's doing to get the audience going, or he would even drop his trousers, do anything to get a laugh. On the radio, because the audience, had no idea.
I'll remember that.
Yeah, you can try it next time and get a laugh. Anyway, the atmosphere in the studio is important, conveys itself to the audience at home. So our job in these recordings we're doing for Big Finish is to make sure that the audience get the full experience, are in a good mood and enjoy it, and that conveys itself to the listening audience at home.
Oh, hi, Karen. What's all that purple stuff on your hands?
Oh, no need to worry about that, Uncle Arthur. No, it's a gobstopper, look.
Oh, for heaven's sake, get rid of it before Captain Mannering sees you.
You stupid boy.
When I shut my eyes, it's just like being in the studio again. And when I was a kid, I used to be in the studio and listen to it. And when you shut your eyes, it's like being back there. It's just creepy.
All the characters in Dad's Army are irritated by each other. It's not that they're all best friends, not at all. In fact, they're constantly squabbling. But the fact is that when it comes down to it, they will fight to the death for each other and for their country.
all we do with this is focus in on Perry and Croft's superb writing. You know, these guys chucked out the best part of 80 scripts for this series. That is phenomenal. That is an incredible thing to come up with individual situations, and you can remember them all individually as well. Oh, that's the balloon episode, that's the fire engine episode, that's that. You know, and these wonderful characters, which they were sort of writing for the actors as well because of their quirks, and they would just tie. I mean, it's like lightning in a bottle. You could never have this again. It's very rare. And I think it's honed in on the writing, and all we're doing is holding that up and saying, look at this, look at what Perry and Croft were doing, and keeping it alive for future generations.
Got to keep calm. Josie, Josie, calm down, for heaven's sake, really.
See, I'm glad he's not listening to this, but when you watch Jack being Jonesy and Pike.
That is one of ours. It's one of theirs, Pikey. You can tell by the coming and going.
Talking to himself.
Yes.
You know, 1, 2, 1, 2. I am in awe of it. I mean, I love actors anyway. I love the craft. I love watching their craft. But watching him and David, when David plays the verger and the vicar.
He's within his rights, and that's a fact.
Thank you, Mr. Yetton, but I'll deal with this.
David does this physicality with the verger and the vicar and the verger and the vicar. And I can see Frank and Ed and Teddy, even though they're not there. It is the weirdest experience for me. And I suppose it must be like that for everyone, but I think even more for me and my family.
Because you're so close to it.
Because we were so close to it. And they are absolutely, and I'm not just saying it, they are absolutely awe-inspiring.
What do you think, Wilson?
Well, I think I know Pike pretty well. He knows his mother pretty well.
Let's not get personal about this, Fraser.
When we got to our very first rehearsal, that was when we actually sat down and thought, well, who are we going to play? And we both tried all the voices, essentially, and ended up, I think, with the ones that we could hear were working most closely. For instance, Mannering. I thought I'd do Mannering as the older part of the two of us. But Jack does the best Mannering you could wish to hear, with nuances I didn't pick up on.
Really?
Oh, yes. Very, very good, sir.
Thank you.
Now, of course, you did the best Clive Dunn as well as Jones.
Yes,
Go on, do a bit.
of course. Yes, I'd always liked Clive. I think Clive appeals to the younger people, and he's got funny rhythms, Clive. And he'll go down on something, and you think, oh, that's odd. Why did you go down there? And I love all those little details that Clive would do. And I think for the younger people, he's wonderful because he's the silly old granddad mucking around. He's always the fun one.
Kids love to see old people acting like children, don't they? And I love playing John the Mesurier ever since I was a Brummie schoolboy. In the 70s, when the show was still on, I used to go to school thinking I was Sergeant Wilson. Really a sort of defence mechanism, because he seemed so calm and sort of floating above all the chaos, you see. But in fact, his wife, Joan, who died not so long ago, was a dear friend, told me that he was by far the most anxious man she'd ever met in her life. And it wasn't exactly a cover, but all that sort of airiness about him was his way, I suppose, of coping. And it was the same with me as a schoolboy. I learned to cope by... Really what we're doing is monetizing our coping strategies.
My unit is a hand-picked band of ruthless fighting men.
Excuse me, sir, do you think I could possibly be excused?
Certainly not.
Oh, dear.
I have to say it's been huge fun, and I'm such a fan of the boys. And I'm so sorry that my dad is dead, because he would have absolutely loved this. The whole thing, it's like being in the studio all over again. And for him, that would have been just great. I'm just sorry. But on his behalf, I thank them. And how lucky are we to have found Jack and David, who are able to recreate something. No one else can, you know, they can't now go and do Steptoe and Son, the undone things, unless Jack and David can do Wilfred and, you know.
Oh, I've got a feeling they could.
They probably could, but whether they would, I don't know. But anyway, how lucky are we that we are able to bring, and the fact is that when you shut your eyes, it is the other actors, and that is a gift, because I would never have dreamed that this would be possible, and it has been possible and very exciting.
Well, I'm very, very grateful that we've been allowed to do this, and the two production companies coming together to make this happen has been very exciting for me, and I look forward to doing many more in the future.
Absolutely. Here's hoping. Don't forget our lower low.
Well, we'll have to talk about it.
But of course, we, at the point of we're recording this interview, we haven't done the show in front of the audience tonight, which is what you'll be seeing or hearing. So we don't know. Actually, there is always that tightrope walk, you know, are we going to go out? Are they going to be how we want them to be? Are we going to have to work hard to build them up and warm them up? Or will they just be ready to go? We don't know. We'll find out later.
We are the boys who will stop your Mr. Brown goes off to town on the A21, but he comes home each evening and he's ready with his gun.